Greetings, royal family. I'm back to basics. Okay. All right, royal family, I have a question. Happy Wednesday, by the way. What is wrong with Wendy Williams? Like, we know what Wendy gives. I know what Wendy gives because I listened to Wendy back in the day when she was on Hot 97, Kiss FM, WBLS Wendy. Wendy that got cussed out by Whitney Houston Wendy. Like, I remember I was on my way to work driving in the car when I listened to that interview. But in 2019, I'm asking, as a longtime listener, what is wrong with Miss Wendy Williams? Here's why I say that. I guess today is Wendy Wednesday. We're going to talk about Wendy with Irv Gotti, Wendy versus Nicki Minaj, and Wendy and her recent Kenya Moore interview. And then you can understand why I'm posing the question, what the heck is wrong with Wendy Williams? First up, Wendy and Irv Gotti. So Irv Gotti stopped by her show recently, and Irv Gotti had plans to clear up some allegations, I guess, or narratives that are being spun about him and Ashanti. So he comes out the gate ready to clear the air. Like, he showed up ready. Okay? So he pretty much got Wendy all the way together, in my opinion. And he pulled a Wendy on Wendy. Pretty much. He took over her entire segment. It was entertaining. It was extra. It was cringeworthy. I was here for it. So he pretty much goes into the interview that he and Wendy had years ago when Wendy was on the radio. And he stated that he did not like the fact that Wendy blindsided him in regards to him sleeping with Ashanti while he was married. So he said when he came up there, you know, that's not what he intended to talk about, I guess. And I guess she just, you know, if you listen to Wendy back in the day, she's very much like how she is now, but she's a lot tamed on television. Like he said, she was ruthless, okay? She was grinding. She was hungry back then. So Wendy was not censored at all, okay? So Wendy casually says, you know, nonchalantly, I should say, says, I knew it was either you or Ja Rule. One of you were sleeping with her. And apparently Ashanti has gotten the name in the past, I don't know if in the present, but in the past, that she was a homewrecker. So Irv Gotti wanted to clear that up. And Irv Gotti said to Wendy, even though it was true, I was totally blindsided. And he also said that Ashanti didn't break up his marriage, you know, because this is what people were saying. So he goes to the audience and he says to the audience, why is it that a man who is married and separated from his wife, and he's not getting back together with his wife, why can't he go out and date or mess with other girls? And the audience is like, no, you know, the audience is reacting because, again, his energy was mad hype. So the energy of the audience was mad hype too. So some people in the audience were shouting no, and he's like, why not? Why not? Why not? Like, he's... If you know Irv Gotti, you've seen him on interviews and on TV, you know what he gives. He's very much hype, okay? Very, very hype. So he said that him and his wife were separated again. Ashanti didn't break anything up. And Wendy said, when he posed that question to the audience, Wendy said, I don't find anything wrong with that. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. I'm still married. And then Irv says, I was going to get to that, Wendy. I was going to get to that because I seen you out and about around town, swerving, mixing and mingling or whatever. He's too much. And he says, he said to himself, is it Wendy still married? And, you know, the audience is like, ooh, you know, just so extra. But Wendy was unfazed by it. And then he said, you know, he didn't hear that she signed any marriage papers, and here it is, she's out mixing and mingling. So he was just basically trying to prove his point that he and his wife were completely separated. They had no plans of getting back together. So he felt that it was cool and acceptable for him to date other women. Listen, he won't be the first, and he most certainly will not be the last. So Wendy was really over-talked or out-talked by her guest, Irv Gotti, in this segment. Like, he literally talked the entire segment. He was going off. Yeah, like even up until, when they go to commercial break, he was still talking during the commercial break. So Wendy was like, Irv and I are good friends. And she tried to kind of steer the interview back around. And she says, you and Ja Rule we're really good friends. I'm talking about I have their numbers in my phone. And when I call, they actually, pick up. But it's just like after all of that, I felt like I needed like a shot, It does seem like they're friends, kind of, I guess. But Irv pretty much spoke his mind, and he said that he came on to clear the air. He didn't even get into, he did talk a little bit about the Murder Inc. Reunion tour. And he's saying that him and Ashanti are not speaking. I think in recent news, Ashanti just says that he's extra. He's not talking to Irv. So Charlemagne said something on The Breakfast Club, though. He said that a Murder Inc. reunion tour can happen without Irv Gotti, but it cannot happen without Ashanti. And I have to agree, because Irv Gotti is not performing any music. He'll just be ensuring that things run smoothly on the tour. But the talent is Ja Rule and Ashanti. I mean, just them two alone, they could go out on tour. I think they're doing a couple of shows. So, he spoke his mind. He overtalked her. The segment, it was funny. His daughter was in the audience. So he got what he wanted to say off of his chest, and he wasn't even here for the audience. I don't know. He got a little bit heated. He's very loud. But Wendy, you could tell, felt a little bit like, I got to rein this back in. But he took over that entire segment. Now, moving along to Nicki Minaj and Wendy Williams. Last week or so, Wendy Williams had something to say. She had an opinion about Nicki Minaj and her husband. So on Nicki Minaj's recent episode of the Queen Radio podcast, she pretty much laid into Wendy. Like, she spared her nothing. Like, she went in on Wendy. And man, I was just like flabbergasted. I was like, oh my gosh, you know what I mean? It was a lot. I had to take it in doses. So Nicki called Wendy Williams a man. And people have often called Wendy Williams a man. And she talked about her husband. And Nicki Minaj, that is. Nicki Minaj started talking about Wendy Williams' husband. And Nicki was saying, while she's worried about my husband and my husband's record and what he did in the past, you're over there telling my business. Your husband was knee deep in somebody else's blank, blank, blank. You can fill in the blank. And yeah, Nicki's just saying like she should have been worried about that. When she said that, I was like, wait a minute. I'm listening to the podcast and I'm washing dishes and I'm like, well, hold on. I almost dropped my good plates. I was like, what did she just say? And it's nothing that no one else hasn't said about Wendy. Like when her and Kevin were going through, when they first announced that, they were getting divorced and his mistress had a baby. Everybody said the same thing. But Nicki her delivery is real hard, especially when she's upset. And she also said, Nicki Minaj also said that Wendy Williams was probably paying for the mistress's shopping sprees, and she probably paid for that baby to be delivered. Yikes. Yeah. Yeah, I was just like, whoa, Nicki's not here to play. And again, this is her platform. The same way Wendy felt the need to make comments about Nicki Minaj and her husband, to kind of poke fun at the fact that he was incarcerated in the past. Nicki has her platform. She has her podcast, so she can utilize her platform to clap back, I guess. And I don't think that Nicki was wrong. I can't say that Nicki was wrong. You know what I mean? Everyone reacts differently. Now, I was looking forward to seeing if Wendy was going to address it. What Wendy normally does sometimes in certain situations is she'll be doing her Hot Topic segment and she'll make a little joke in reference to if someone said anything about her, but she didn't. I wasn't surprised. I was looking forward to seeing if she would, but she probably will at a later date. and catch us off guard. But Wendy's not moved by this type of stuff. She's used to it. And I feel like, yeah, she might have been giving her opinion as far as Nicki Minaj and her husband, but Wendy, you know, you still got your hands in the fire too. So I just think that she could have chose her words wisely. I just don't think that it was tasteful to make fun of this man's legal past or his record, you know what I mean, his legal record. But at the end of the day, again, it's her platform. We can't tell Wendy what she should and should not say. We can have an opinion about it, just like she has an opinion about every one else. And earlier last week also, I don't know if you guys saw the video, but you know, it was reported that Nicki Minaj's ring was like $1.1 million, and her husband bought it for her, and people were cracking jokes and saying, how can he afford it? Et cetera, et cetera. And she was on live and she was joking about the fact that people were talking about her ring, or people were saying that, you know, she bought her own ring, so on and so forth. And it's just, is it that Nicki, like, do people really care about how much her ring costs? Or is it that Nicki is ticked off and annoyed about people saying things about her and her relationship and her marriage? Like, I don't know. It could be a combination of both, I guess. I don't know. Here's my thoughts. Like, as far as the ring and how much it costs, I wouldn't explain anything. Like, I would let them guess. And I guess that's why she was like, they were making fun of the fact that people were inquiring about him purchasing the ring. You know, they were joking and like just making fun of it on her social media. I wouldn't confirm or deny anything. Like, to me, there is something that is a major turn off when people want to know how much I spend for something, how much money I have in my bank account, in my pocket, how much this costs, how much that costs. Like, we all know people who are like that. And there are people who do it because they're interested genuinely. And there are people who do it to count your pockets. Like, look, Nicki is a multi-millionaire, so does it even really matter like how much it costs? You know what I'm saying? Like, she's worth what, 90, how much, like 86, 79, between 70 and 90 million. I don't even know. Put it in the comments if you know. So even if she did pay for the ring, it's a $1 million ring, is she really losing? I don't know. That's just how much people spend, and judging people by how much they spend or what you think they have or what you think they don't have. And it's always been a major turnoff to me. Anyway, moving along. Most recently, Kenya Moore came to the Wendy Williams show. And let me tell you something. This was one of the reasons why I asked, what is wrong with Wendy Williams? I don't know if you guys saw it, but Kenya, she came out looking great. So the interview was really uneasy. It was just all Wendy. What is wrong with her? Anyway, I just think that Wendy displayed her tacky antics. Like, we know Wendy is being messy, but she was tacky. All right, here we go. Let's start with Kenya's look. Okay, first of all, this Black Barbie came out looking, and this is Kenya from Real Housewives of Atlanta, by the way, Kenya Moore. She came out looking beautiful and flawless, okay? Hair bone straight with the middle part. She came out in a cream suit showing cleavage, okay? The suit jacket was tailor-made fit. Pants looked great. She gave shoe cam, and she had like a tortoise print pattern on her patent leather pumps and stilettos. They were cute, and they had the ankle strap around the ankle. Real dainty, real clean, cute. She looked clean and classy. She looked amazing. So Wendy pretty much started out congratulating her on being a mother, and then they talked about the opening scene of Housewives of Atlanta. Be sure you check out my review, okay? She said that she likes Kenya. Yeah, she said that she's known Kenya for a very long time, since her radio days. And Wendy says that Kenya has always supported her, and she thought that pretty girls like her were stuck up and snooty, but Kenya was real down to earth. So when someone lays it on thick like that, especially Wendy, you know it's some foolishness to come. It's like she had to kind of like preface everything that she said after that by saying she likes Kenya, she's beautiful, she looks good, congratulations, yada yada. Then Wendy looks into the camera. No one was bringing up this woman. Wendy looks into the camera and says, Nene, don't be mad. Like, she just couldn't wait to unleash her tacky. You know what I mean? No one was talking about Nene. So she looks, like I said, after complimenting Kenya, she looks into the camera. Nene, don't be mad at me. What? See, this is what I don't like too. Why would Nene be mad? If you guys are friends, right? Why are you painting the picture that Nene would be mad that you are doing your job, right? You have a television show, a syndicated television show, a popular television show, and she knows what you give. Why are you making it seem as though Nene would be mad because you are interviewing Kenya? All that's going to do is perpetuate the negative perception of Nene. There's a lot of people that don't like Nene. So why? What are you doing? Like you giving? What are you giving, Wendy? You're giving too much. I didn't really like that. She was just moving along. Wendy, she turns up. She turns up the tacky. Okay, she started telling Kenya. Started talking about Kenya's past. She says, you know, your past with your mother, you know, not loving you. I feel like you were tossed out for garbage, and you made something of your life. And, you know, you only have one mother. That's got to be the most hurtful thing ever. Wendy, like, what the heck were you doing before this interview, this segment? Like, were you backstage drinking or engaging in other activities? Like, this is how you start out your interview? Tossed like trash? Like, yo, this is not funny, but you know when something is absolutely ridiculous? Sometimes you just default to laughing. I was not laughing at Kenya, but I was more so laughing at Wendy. Not in a way where I was like, ooh, Wendy. I was laughing at her because she made a total fool of herself during this interview. Like, tossed out like trash and you made something of yourself. It's like you compliment and then you give a backhanded compliment in the same sentence. Like, Kenya wasn't tossed out like trash. Like, she wasn't raised on the street. And I know she may mean that figuratively, but Wendy, you are a grown woman. You are 50 something years old. You could have behaved in a more tactful manner. Like, I don't know. She then moves on to ask about Mark, okay? And Kenya pretty much gives the typical, you know, beauty pageant answer, like, we're fine. You know, everything is good. You know, we're raising our child in the most civil way possible. And we're working on the distance because, you know, Mark lives in New York. Kenya lives in Atlanta. She says, you know, she's in love. She's still in love. And Wendy pointed out the fact that she's still wearing her ring. And Kenya's like, yeah, you know, we haven't filed for divorce and we are legally married. Like, she emphasized legally. So Wendy goes to say, now you live in Atlanta and he lives in New York. You know, did you guys stay together last night? So Kenya laughs and she says no. Wendy, you know, Wendy then says, well, don't you think that that means that he doesn't want to be bothered? Like, what? Yo, this woman is ridiculous. Like, she's really ridiculous. And Kenya said, you know, that's pretty harsh to say, and that they're very much in love. You know, they were just recently together, and he was gazing across the room at her, and they made out, and the distance is causing strain in their marriage, and also they have a lot of other things that they need to work out individually and together. And again, she emphasized that they are legally married. And Wendy cut her off and said, that's not what Nene said, you know, because Kenya's like, we are legally married. And Nene's like, that's not what Kenya said. That's not what Nene said. Why are you bringing up Nene again? Here you go, bringing up Nene. Kenya was like, Nene needs to worry about her own marriage, and she is married and she definitely has receipts. So Wendy says, you know, we can look it up. You know, where did you get married? Yo, what's wrong with this woman? Like, she's crazy. Like, she's really crazy. Kenya said, you know, we got married in St. Lucia. And this is where I was like, okay, Kenya, hold on. You know, don't talk too much because I don't understand that. She said that we had a legal ceremony. We didn't have a civil ceremony in St. Lucia. But a civil ceremony is a legal marriage ceremony, no? Like, you know, like a civil ceremony is like when people go to like the courthouse as opposed to getting married like in a church or something like that. Like they just go to the courthouse and have a ceremony. That's a civil ceremony. But anything civil and a ceremony, that's a legal ceremony. So what do you mean you didn't have a civil ceremony? I don't know. Maybe she meant like they just had a little ceremony on the beach and then they went to pick up the marriage license at the courthouse. Anyway, Wendy asks Kenya, why don't you like her, referring to Nene. This is while Kenya is talking about her being married in St. Lucia. She just cuts her off. And Kenya says, you know, she's tried to be nice to her and that Nene never once called her when she was pregnant and she was high risk. And Nene says, you know, when Kenya says when Nene did see her last season, she called her a monster and she called her baby a buffalo. Kenya, stop. You were pregnant. She did not call your unborn baby a buffalo. She called you a buffalo. Like, even Wendy was like, I missed that episode. Like, that was on, you know, TV. Was that on TV? And Kenya said, that's your friend. You know, and the audience is like, ooh, ah. And Kenya said that, you know, no, Wendy asked her, did Nene really try to spit on you? And Kenya said she acted like she was going to spit on her. And Wendy did ask a good question, like, how does someone act like they're going to spit on you? So Kenya just says that, you know, she was making the hawking noises, like, you know, like she was about to hawk up a loogie. So that's how she took it. Kenya said that's how she took it. I'll believe it when I see it, because there's all this talk and speculation that Nene tried to spit, Nene did spit. But my whole thing is, we know that Kenya can not only twirl on her feet, but Kenya can twirl a story. Like, she can definitely twirl a story to make something look like something that is not. So Kenya basically saying that she interpreted it as Nene was trying to spit on her because she was hawking up a loogie. Like I said, I'll believe it when I see it. They start talking about salaries, and Kenya says that Kandi is the highest paid housewife. And Wendy moves on to ask about baby Brooklyn. She asked if baby Brooklyn sleeps in the bed with her, being that Mark is not there. She's like, does baby Brooklyn sleep in the bed with you? You know, because being that Mark is not there. Then she goes, like, what do you say to that? You know, Kenya responded, what did she say? Kenya was like, yeah, she sleeps with me, and she is here in New York, but she's not here at the show, and I don't travel anywhere without my daughter. And Wendy goes into complimenting Kenya again, saying that she really is a true beauty queen and she deserves all of this, like as it pertains to her being married, being a mother, being back on the show, all this success that she's receiving. And then Wendy goes in again and brings up Kenya's mother. Then she's just like, but your mother, you know, like, how do you... Kenya just pretty much kind of like tried to put it to bed, and she says that her mother didn't want her. Her mother had her when she was 16, and her father has always been in her life, and she does have siblings on her father's side. And Wendy interrupted her, and Wendy said, so basically you were an interruption. You know, she was immature at the time. You were an interruption? Like, Wendy, what the... Kenya just kept it moving. She kept it cute. She didn't give into any of Wendy's digs. And I have to say that she is very well poised. She is very well media trained. So is Wendy. But Wendy tried to pull her stunts, and Kenya didn't even acknowledge. She just seamlessly answered the questions and kept it moving. You know, Kenya says that her mom is now in her 60s and nothing has changed. You know, she hasn't tried to reach out to have a relationship with her or Brooklyn. She hasn't sent the baby a bottle or anything. Pampers, and that's all in the past. Like, she's just ready to move on. And Wendy was like, you know, not in my head. It's not in the past. Wendy, it's not your mother. So it doesn't matter if it's not in the past for you or not. Like, I'll get to my thoughts in the end. Kenya said something that was beautiful, and I truly believe this. Kenya says that she wants to be the mother to Brooklyn that her mother wasn't to her. And I felt that was honest. You know, they talk a little bit more about housewives and why Nene wasn't there. Kenya says Kenya says, ask Bravo. And Wendy's like, I already know. I just want to see what you know. And then Kenya's like, well, and Wendy's like, I don't know anything. So you see she's being messy. Because you remember, Wendy and Andy are cool, so Wendy knows exactly what's going on behind the scenes. So why are you asking Kenya to see what she says? Like, Wendy, how old are you? Anyway, and Kenya just went on to say, in reference to Nene not being on the first episode, she says, when you have issues with the network, and you're recognized throughout the network as having issues, they'll definitely put you in your place. And she said, and that's all she'll say about that. And then they're wrapping up the show and wrapping up the segment. And Wendy says to her, again, bringing up her mother. She says, she touches her hand. She says, even though your own mother didn't get you anything for your baby, I got something for you and baby Brooklyn. And they bring out two little outfits, one for mommy, one for daughter. And then the segment, ends. Wendy, you ain't spit. You ain't spit, Wendy. You ain't. And it's like complimenting someone and then bringing up their childhood trauma, throwing it in their face. Yo, that's like in the same breath. Like, that's just straight tacky. Like, I feel Kenya handled herself very well. Like I said, she wasn't tongue-tied in the interview. She didn't trip up on her words. She didn't even pause. And if there was a pause, it was because Wendy was talking and she allowed her time to finish. She intersected politely when she needed to. It wasn't like a back and forth. She let Wendy make a complete fool of herself. So she ignored her comments and she just showed that she definitely is a class act. Now, I'm not a fan of Kenya on Real Housewives of Atlanta. I wasn't in the past. We'll see what this season gives. But I have to say, not only did she look good, she looked amazing. She looked amazing. Her energy was great, and I loved the way she handled herself. Like I said, it wasn't even her body language. Like, when someone is like uncomfortable, if someone throws shade, didn't miss a step. And that is a classic woman. Here's my thoughts. Wendy, if you're trying to do this, like the situation with Nicki Minaj, and even though it was part of your hot topics and your interview with Kenya and things like that, if you're trying to do this to increase ratings or keep your ratings afloat and to get your name trending, competing with bloggers and vloggers and all that stuff, then you're doing an excellent job with all this mess. That definitely will keep you in the vlogs, in the blogs, trending on Twitter. People will be looking up your interviews, looking up your name and all of this other stuff. But if this is an attempt to keep up ratings because you scared that you like on your way out, then you're definitely going to crash. People are not afraid of Wendy anymore. Like I said, I listened to Wendy from back in the day. Radio Wendy was ruthless. She was real. She's ruthless now, but trust me, it was like 100 times worse than what you see on television. And there were some people that used to come to her radio show to face off with her, like to get her together, just like Irv Gotti did when he was on the show. And there were also some people who came up to basically like silence her, like, you better stop talking about this, because you think like some of these bloggers and vloggers had the tea. Wendy had a fax machine and a phone, and people would fax in information. People would call her. Her show was definitely popping. Everybody was tuned in. So I don't think that people, like I said, I don't think that people are scared of her. And because she's older now, it just looks tacky. You can still report on celebrity news and gossip, but I just feel like you don't have to be mean. You know what I mean? And there's no way 50-something years old, you don't know that saying to someone who has no relationship with their mother, your mother threw you away like trash and look, you made something of yourself. You have to know that that's a poor choice of words. Like, you have to know that. Is it that she knows that and she doesn't care? Who knows with Wendy? Who knows? The good part is Wendy's used to this. I'm pretty sure she'll get backlash. She has been getting backlash. She's used to it. She has thick skin. She lets it roll off of her back. I mean, she was cursed out by Judge Mathis. This was back in her radio days. I listened to that. She was cursed out by Method Man. and she was cursed out by, Whitney Houston. That will go down in history as the most epic read ever. So, although this is good ratings for you, Wendy, and it keeps your name circulating in the blogs, you may be losing your edge because there's a lot of new sheriffs in town. And what I mean by that is there are a lot of new bloggers, vloggers. You guys know some. I'm pretty sure you watch a lot of YouTubers. And, there's some new sheriffs in town, Wendy. And Wendy's always going to be recognized as the queen of media. A lot of what most of us who are on YouTube are doing, celebrity gossip and topics and things like that. Wendy was pretty much the face of that back in the day, and she still is. But if you're doing this, Wendy, to try to hold on to your crown, nobody's going to take your crown from you. Like, you know what I'm saying? You've already been crowned the queen of media, and maybe this is time to dial it back before you exit. Again, we can't tell Miss Wendy what to do. She could do whatever she want to do. So is it her desperate attempts to try to stay, trending, or is just Wendy being Wendy? You know what I mean? Tell me what you think. But like I said, I'm coming from radio Wendy, so I'm used to this. However, it's like, girl, you know what I mean? You AARP, click. That's your age range. You know what I mean? No shade, but when do you tone it down? Like, you could still deliver celebrity news and trending topics. And again, you don't have to be nasty. That Kenya interview was it for me. I said to myself, this woman she's bugging. She's tripping. So that's it. Wendy Wednesday, Wendy versus Irv Gotti, Nicki Minaj, and Wendy and Kenya Moore's interview. I'm so glad that Kenya had scruples and she didn't make a fool of herself. But Wendy, this was tacky for TV. This was very, very tacky, and I think that you need to just have a little bit of compassion, man. Like, geez, if you have to be like this for ratings at the age that you are, girl, like, you don't have any plans after this TV show gig? Like, what are you doing? Anyway, until next time, Royal Family, be sure to get down in the comments and tell me what you think. Like this video if you like it. Give it a thumbs up. If you are new to the Royal Family, welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you for stopping by. Be sure to check out the other content on the channel. And if you are a returning Royal Family, welcome, welcome, welcome. So I'm out. That's all I got for Wendy Wednesday. See you down in the comments, ladies and gentlemen. Until next time.